Good evening. First of all, thank you to Jamie for inviting me, and it's a pleasure to be here. It's my first time in Manchester, so it's really a pleasure. I can change slide with that. No, I can do it. Just a second. With my perfect. Here we are. So I was trying to what's the talk today. I want to talk my journey in how I decided to manage my AWS credential from a developer point of view. So I was a developer and I had tons of credentials to manage, and I want to do it in the best way. So I was trying to introduce myself and try to describe myself. And if I have to describe myself, I'm a community builder, I'm a user group leader as Jamie, but if I have to describe myself, I can describe myself as an automation guy who loves community. And those are the words that really make me what I am. So why automation? Because I'm the kind of lazy guy that he has to do a task for 2 times, he creates a script, because I get annoyed to do any kind of task more than 1 time. So the first time I entered in my office as a consultant, I remember that print hung on the door that show you how can you spend in automating a task before you spend more time in doing the automation that the time you save. So we had a problem in how to manage the programmatic access for AIM Role federated back in 2015. And we noticed that we had a lot of time for managing that task and automating that. So we decided to create an automation. On the other side, I'm a community guy. I love community. I think it's because my passion from basketball. I've always been a basketball player and a basketball coach. And I love to be in a community, and I love how teams in a community can create a common set of rules to operate better. I think there is a good example there. Any City fans? Not so much. I'm lucky since I'm an Inter fan. So we were back in 2015, and we had a problem for AWS introduced AWS AIM Role federated. There was a way to access to the console at the time with AIM Role federated, but there was no way to access programmatically. So we created a script to extract the SAML metadata and automatically generate a set of short-lived credentials that are constantly rotated from that assertion. And we generated a small tool, and we started using it internally. Then our problem was really a small problem, because we had 1 account, we were small, AWS hasn't introduced yet methods to isolate the workloads. So our workloads has grown. In 2017, AWS introduced organization, and bump. You don't have one credential to manage. You have plenty of account to access. As a developer, it's really like a pain. It's really a pain. And on the other side, if you think about it, AIM, it's one of the basic service of AWS, but it's not easy to understand at the first time. So it has a lot of caveats, and it's not easy to make it understandable for all the builders that have to access to AWS. So there is an enormous ratio of builders that have to access to AWS, and security engineers that help people manage things securely. So it's not easy to have a good cloud security posture for everyone that needs to access to AWS. So we want to automate that cloud security posture for our developers, and our companies that we were working on started asking for that tool. So we decided to open source it. So we open sourced that tool because we don't want to rest anymore with the AWS folder. We don't want to work anymore with that folder because it's not easy to work with. You have to understand, to really understand what you have to do to better manage it. And we want to follow the best practice, which are generate and rotate with only short-lived credentials, so no long-lived credential there. We want authenticate with any different AIM principle with the same workflow, since we had a lot of customers with different method to access to AWS, and we don't want to remember every time how to access to that account. And later on, within the community, we decided also not only to access, but also to help us automate our cloud task. So create some sort of automation that we will see later on. So that small tool has become Leapp. Leapp is the first desktop app for developers that allows you to access your AWS account in a click. It's pretty easy. We develop it, as we said, with a security in mind first approach. So all the sensitive data to generate your credential are stored safely in your local PC. Then the app directly locally call STS for generate your credential. So the app is only an automation of what you have to do to manage your credential. And now we will see the caveats of the AIM principle. So let's start with the three most used. Who one is using AWS AIM user? I know that there are a lot of that papers that say that you don't have to, but there are so many use cases that use AWS AIM user, and you have to use them. But it's the first method introduced by AWS, and it's still vastly used. But from a security point of view, what we want from AIM user? We want to store the long-term credentials, so access key and secret key, in a safe place, and then rely on get session token API locally to generate a set of short credentials, even from AIM user. And we want, since for our customer, we were asking them to use multi-factor authentication, also to generate credentials from multi-factor authentication. For AWS Role Federated, I think this is one of the most community stories, since our workflow was through G Suite, which was our identity provider, but each identity provider has his own workflow to generate short-lived credential. So it's really a pain to do that. We open sourced the tool, and we created a filter to extract that metadata, and we will see later on. We add like 10 pull requests to add an identity provider, and you can add your own identity provider with like 3 lines of code. So we created a documentation, and people that loves the tool started contributing in the tool. So our point has become the point of everyone. So not just the method that we needed, but the method that everyone needed. So even there, we extract that SAML assertion, we store that safely in my keychain for my Mac, and then with assume role with SAML, I'll generate a set of short-lived credentials. Who is using AWS Single Sign-on Identity Center? Okay, it's the method that AWS is pushing right now, and it has a lot of new features which are good and are helping us. But on my side, there are pros and cons on that. I'm still not. I still don't know if it's good or bad to me. Let's check it out. So he introduced a single point of failure for credential generation, since AWS Single Sign-on itself, it's a credential broker. So if AWS Single Sign-on it's off, you need another way to access your account, or you are cut off by your infrastructure. And this is a good point. On the other side, from a cloud security posture, one of the most dangerous things is that if you do AWS SSO configure and you access through CLI, what happens that it stores in your AWS folder, so in a plain text file, which can be attacked by a breach from a malicious Docker or everything, a token of single sign-on. And with that token, you can access not to a single account or a role, but to all the account and roles that you can access to. So that token to me, it's too sensitive. I want to store it in my encrypted in my system vault, and then generate credential short-lived only for the credential that I need. So this is a big point to me. On the other side, if as a consultant, I need I have a lot of customers with AWS Single Sign-on, and maybe I had to access to more than one AWS Single Sign-on at the same time, which is not easy at the moment. The last principle we will see, it's one of the most used by us, so are cross-account roles, so switch roles or assume role. And for that use case, you have to access to assume a role from one of the other principal. And we leverage on the STS assume role to do that jump. In fact, from that jump, it comes to the name Leapp. So how the credential generation workflow is, so the user on the app asking for the credential, the app retrieve from your local key vault. I'm saying keychain just because I'm from Mac, but it's across platforms, so work on Windows, and it's rely on the system vault of any PC. And it's retrieve the sensitive data, and then with that sensitive data, generate a set of short-lived credentials, and then inject them in your credential file. So you don't have to. And you can stop managing that credential file. That's the main point, but I think that it's better to see the demo that keep talking. So, did you hear me? No? How we can do for... Yeah, I have to. So, did you hear me? Can I hear right? Okay. See the screen? This is my credential file. Okay. And this is the application. You see the application? Okay. So here I have 3 different sessions. each session, it's represent a way to access to AWS, a user, a role, a single sign-on, etc. So for example, for my federated access, I still have, I already had done the login through my G Suite, and once I need credential, what happens? That I click to the app, and the app within the internet, okay, the internet is not working, awesome. Okay, what happens? Credentials are generated. It's just a regex to hide the credential, but those are working credentials. So the idea of the app is I want in that file to have credential only when they are needed. So I have to work on an account. I have the credential. I don't have to work anymore. Credentials are cleared. I want a central point to access my account, okay, and to overview them and to search them and to manage them. But I don't want the credential file to be the list of all the places I can go. This is the main point. Let's see about AWS Single Sign-on. AWS Single Sign-on, it works like an integration. So you can just add your portal where your AWS Single Sign-on is located and how you want to access. Then you double click and the app automatically asking you for accessing your AWS Single Sign-on. So in this demo, you will see a lot of authentication, sorry, but it will be like that. Okay. So when I allow the request, what happens in the app? The app automatically recognizes all the places I can go in my AWS Single Sign-on and show them in all my sessions. Okay. So I can even there generate a set of short-lived credentials that are rotated by the app, even for AWS Single Sign-on. Okay, and that's the first part. So we want to manage access. But then the community asked us, okay, it's really good for programmatic access, but what about console, like the guy said before? What about the console? What about if I need to access a console and then access to a console to another account? It's not a good, from a developer point of view, it's not the best experience ever, let me say. So I can come and click, with come and click, I can access to my console, okay? What the app has done, it rely on the one-time short-lived credential to generate a console link that is already logged, even for chained role. So I have a chained role. So I'm into that account, and then I also assume a role into another account. If I had to go to the console, I had to log in into my identity provider, switch role, and remember which is. What I can do, I can come and click even there, and as you can see, I can access to the console, okay? As you can see, there are two different Firefox containers. So this console is working, and I can access and I play with that. And this console is working in another account, in another organization, with another role, okay? And even there, if I need to access to other accounts, I just have to come and click and they expand. We created a browser extension to do that talk directly, locally, with your open source application. one of the main pain points there is that there are still credentials, okay? There are still credentials, and from a security point of view, we hope not to use credential at all, okay? How can we do that? We can change the credential method. So, who know about credential process? Perfect. What is credential process? Credential process is a link that you, let me just change the file I have to watch. So I start watching my config. So it's just a CLI method that generate when needed. So when any SDK, Terraform, CDK need for credential, look in your config file for that CLI and ask to that CLI, please, Leapp CLI, generate me a set of short-lived credentials. This is a session ID, okay? So even there, I can start and stop a session, but with no credential at all in my credential file. As I said, we wanted to create a tool that need help you in accessing AWS, but also gives you a clear point on a developer experience, okay? And for that, people started asking, okay, but I keep playing with some services, and one of the most played was System Manager, okay? And I want to automate other things that access. So let's say that I need to access to an EC2 instance. Does anyone has never access has access to EC2 instance through System Manager? Perfect. So what if I can see directly what are the instances I need to access, and from those instances I can click and the app automatically connect me, hoping not a demo effect, yes, connecting me and connecting me to my EC2 instance. So right now I'm into, nope, yes, my SSM user in my EC2 instance, okay? The app automatically discover the instance ID. From the instance ID, it retrieves to you the instance name, which is way easier to understand. And this is the first action we created. So going back to the presentation, let me see if I, presentation, where are you? Okay. So we already seen the credential process, and we want to automate what are our cloud operation. So we want to generate things and actions to automate our script that we use every day. So within the ask of the community, we created a plugin system that you can plug into your desktop application and create your own plugin to create your custom action like the System Manager one. I'll show you. So from the arc, you can see that we have a plugin hub, and you can install directly from the website. And if I need to access to plugins, I have all my plugins installed. Like I need to copy credential for a Docker, okay, and I have credential environments. A community member has created a plugin for that. I have to create a tunnel within System Manager, Session Manager, and I can do literally a lot of things. A community member has done a plugin over that you can start, and automatically from a set of short-lived credentials, it generates Okay. Let me see if this is a demo, and probably it is. Okay, now it's working. So I can create a tunnel to my instances. With that tunnel, I can do a lot of things. We had a customer that say, okay, but I need to access to my Windows instance through RDP, since I'm not such an expert and I want to see the UI, just to drag and drop files. It's a stupid thing, but customers are asking for that. So what if I can access to my Windows instance directly from the app? So within the app, I created a tunnel, and then another demo, another password. Okay, copy. And within the app, without accessing, I can access to my Windows instance. As I said, we want to create a way to automate our workflow. That's with that plugin, we used that plugin for a lot of different use cases. For example, if you need to access a private database without the need of a VPN, you can use it as a tunnel for accessing other private instances. So it's really powerful. And creating a plugin, it's just, nope, example plugin, it's less than 40 lines of code. Okay, it's a TypeScript class. Into TypeScript class, you have your session, you have your short-lived credential, and you can manage them all to open browser, open terminals, and in the near future, I hope, with the community, we can also leverage through the UI directly of the app. So going back to the documentation, and I've almost finished. How the credential workflow work for plugins? So the first part, it's similar. So if I need to access to an EC2 instance, I don't need to have credential in my credential folder. I can ask to Leapp. Leapp retrieve the sensitive data, and then without injecting anything in the credential folder, call STS, retrieve a set of short-lived credential, and then automatically call system manager and their plugin. So you don't have to have credential anymore to access your instances. And this is the tunnel that you just seen. But the most important part to me, okay, it's all about community. So it started as a little tool for managing my G Suite credential. And it has become this, okay? It's grown a lot within the community, within the help of the community. And the most important part to me is that there are many ways, many scripts to access credential. I don't want to say I have the perfect standard. I want to create the standard within the community. So this is the standard of 8,000 of users that use it daily. Okay, so this is the standard that the community is asking for. Okay, and we want to follow all the best practices and with the best experience for developers and all the builders. We have done it through the community. So we created a community that has more than 300 people inside that continuously talks about how we want to operate in cloud and how we want better work with the cloud every day. So we created this community to improve our process on cloud, to improve our know-how, and why not? If you are about creating your open source project, just ask me. I really love open source, and I really love how to create an open source project and how to manage it. And believe me, it's not just code. Open source, it's much more. Code, it's a small part of the open source part. So connecting my dots backwards, I'm an automation guy who created an automation tool because I love automation, and he has done it within a community. Okay, so I'm an automation guy who created that open source tool, and if you like the tool, you can check it out there. And here you will find, I didn't remember if it's the repo of the or the website, and with that you can download it and start using it. It's cross-platform, and it works for macOS, Windows, and Linux. And I created a community where we have many things like an awesome list of tools and script and arsenal to better operate in cloud, where we have a lot of discussion on how to better use the app, and where we love to share our ideas. So that's it. I'm Andrea Cavagna. I'm the co-founder of Nuvolari, and it's a pleasure to be here in Manchester today.